I want to know where Hunter Biden's laptop is. Where is it?
Sir, I don't know that answer.
That is astonishing to me.
When did you become aware that Joe Biden tried to get Ghani to lie about the conditions in Afghanistan? He did that in July. Did you know that right away?
I'm not aware of what President Biden...
You're not aware of the phone call that Biden had with Ghani where he said, whether it is true or not, we want you to go out there and paint a rosy picture of what's going on in Afghanistan.
He's good. Congressman Matt Gaetz, now in the majority, in the Republican majority in the House of Representatives, joins us once again. Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, House Judiciary Committee, Subcommittee on Weaponization of Government, and the House Armed Services Committee. Welcome back, sir. How does it feel to be in the majority again?
Well, we have tools because we're in the majority and because we put up a fight at the beginning of January to ensure that we could have votes on individual appropriations acts, that we could actually do critical oversight that the American people demand. But now we actually have to use those tools, Greg. It is not enough just to admire them. We have to put them to use, and it's great to be participating in that work.
It's great to watch. Are you at all frustrated that, the media, they're downplaying this? It was wall-to-wall coverage when Democrats had the gavel. And for you guys, it's, they're always minimizing it or looking the other way. Does it matter from a governmental standpoint whether or not people are paying attention? A lot of people are, but you know what I mean.
We always expect headwinds in getting our message out, but the information we drew out today in this hearing was searing. You have taxpayer funds being used to try to shape the very nature of truth itself. You have news organizations subject to these different groups that direct ad revenue. And time and again, you had the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security trying to coerce social media companies to promote certain content, to ban other types of content. And we went from directing some of these tools to terrorists abroad to actually turning them inward against our own people. And that's what the Weaponization Subcommittee stands to reverse. We do not believe that the government should be trying to really impair the constitutional and First Amendment rights of our citizens, even when people are wrong, even when people disagree.
Can I ask you about NewsGuard? And you mentioned the monetization and the federal government's role here. NewsGuard, for people who don't know, it's this, a liberal started it. His name is Stephen Brill. And they purport to rate and grade news organizations based on their credibility, but they have an agenda. I did not know that they were getting federal money, apparently. Can you tell us what's actually going on here with NewsGuard and the rest?
The U.S. Department of State has a program that actually funds an entity that aggregates almost all of the advertising dollars that go into these news programs. And so imagine every advertiser being told, oh, well, you'll do better if you go with the Huffington Post or the Daily Beast or CNN, but your advertising reach won't be as far if you go with a Newsmax or a Breitbart or a Federalist. And the reality is it's content-based. It's not based on viewership or eyeballs or the type of audience. And so oftentimes you have these advertisers forced to go through these aggregators, and the result is the U.S. government paying in almost an authoritarian kind of way to advantage or disadvantage different types of publishers. This is a threat to the very doctrine of free speech that Americans have cherished since our founding. And I know that we've got a great deal of work to do to reverse course on this, because so much effort, so much money has gone into slanting viewpoint and controlling what people think. So ultimately, the left can control how people behave.
One of the strangest things I've seen in a long time was that FBI agent Elvis Chan, kind of happy-go-lucky guy, almost bragging about how the FBI was taking a role in the 2020 election. Very strange. Even the 2022 election. Look, I'm on your side. I'm not a Republican. Maybe that's too much information, but I voted for Democrats in the past. I am so surprised that there aren't more Democrats coming forward to your side on this. I mean, this is wrong. It is indefensible, yet they are defending it, or they're changing the subject. Did they ever level with you behind the scenes that they don't like this either?
There is precisely one Democrat in Congress who is horrified by the Twitter files and calling for reform. That would be California's Ro Khanna. Why aren't there others? Something changed in our country, Greg. The left used to believe that we needed this vibrant marketplace of ideas, that we needed to tolerate offensive speech and speech that we would find otherwise very objectionable. And now they want to get down to where one scientist disagrees with another scientist, so a particular account is banned or their reach isn't allowed to go forward. And so what I believe is that we know these things because Elon Musk bought Twitter. But I think the very revelations you saw from the FBI and Elvis Chan in trying to control Twitter will also be seen at Google, at Meta, at Amazon, at Apple, at Microsoft, any number of places where conservatives find themselves on a list because they don't go along with the prevailing view. And I would be just this upset and just this animated if they were doing these things to people who had views I disagree with. Look, it's easy to stand up for the speech that you agree with. The hard part is saying that for us to have a culture of free speech, an ecosystem of debate and discourse, we actually have to be not such like snowflakes that we aren't willing to hear things that we find offensive, objectionable, or disagreeable.
Totally agree. Congressman, I've seen a bunch of articles the past, months, but certainly this week that America, our military versus the Chinese military, we wouldn't necessarily win. And it seems like an incredibly urgent situation. General Milley is still on the job and doesn't seem to have his priorities straight. I love how you're not afraid to take on generals because some of them are not good. Are we going to fix that anytime soon? Because we're in real trouble.
Well, we have to excise the wokeness from our military, a wokeness that has made our military weaker. But unfortunately, the president, the commander-in-chief, gets to choose his military advisors, and he has chosen truly two of the dumbest people to ever advise a president in American history in Lloyd Austin and Mark Milley. These people have made a career out of failing up, a career out of losing. They make bad decisions and bad assessment one after the other. And so we are a nation less safe with Lloyd Austin and Mark Milley in charge of our military. And if Joe Biden weren't so addled himself, he probably would have fired them by now. There are important technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning where I do believe China has created a gap with the United States. I'm worried about hypersonics and space as well, but you can't hold the high ground if you're trusting lowbrow people to make the decisions, and that's gone on for far too long.
Do you believe in UFOs? What's going on with these things lately? What can you tell us?
I have seen evidence of craft that I am not familiar with any of our allies or adversaries or even our country possessing. I've seen that craft taken by air crews who have gotten quite close to it. And we've got a lot more questions about why this information isn't more broadly available to the American people. If there's stuff flying over our skies and we don't know about it, whether it's Chinese, whether it's unworldly, I think we need a lot more transparency. And we've actually got a group of Congress members together that are going to be conducting a lot more investigations and trying to get this information before the public so that we can have a lot more assessment of the threat level and the risk level.
That would be great. And by the way, one more thing, and anything else you care to add, but thank you for your support in our struggle with DirecTV, and we appreciate it. And anything else you can do, I'm sure we'd embrace it, but I think you've done a lot.
Well, we need to be holding hearings in the Energy and Commerce Committee specifically about this. You know, the Twitter files are egregious, but just as egregious, these circumstances where you've got members of Congress trying to threaten and coerce DirecTV and AT&T into making viewpoint decisions about content rather than business decisions. How have the AT&T shareholders not sued their board for breaching their fiduciary duty in not trying to get these great channels like Newsmax continue to be carried, because that's what the consumers want. So they're actually hurting their shareholders for wokeness. That's how we have to talk about this. And the shareholders need to rise up and fight back.
Congressman Gaetz, Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida. So appreciate your service. Thank you, and we'll be right back.